I understand you have a presentation that you want to make tonight. There were some questions that I had raised, some of which I see are answered in this presentation, some of which are not, and we'll go over those as you go through the presentation.
Fine. Chairman Sides, Vice Chairman Pierce, and the body of the county commissioners would like to thank you for allowing us to come back to present Tsunami Development. I'll make a couple of statements before I turn it over to Mr. Kenny Harden. I know that I'll wait on Mr. Page. I'm just kidding.
He's on his way out.
Yeah, I know it. Well, you know, I was going to say, you know, it's kind of bittersweet. I'm glad Mr. Page is leaving. And for this reason is that when I walk from number 1 green to number 2 tee box, I don't have to worry about getting run over by you in that black Tahoe. But
you said I almost took him out one day.
I think you would text it on your phone. But did I say that? But at any rate, the first time that we presented to you guys, when you look in the Salisbury Post and you look in other places, man, we took a lot of criticism, and I think unnecessary. I know some said that we weren't proven. The Tsunami Development wasn't proven, but, you know, I always ask if you were to start a football team, you can call it the Rowan County Yum Yums if you wanted to. And you may say, hey, the Yum Yums are not proven, but if you look at the roster and it's made up of Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and Adrian Peterson, you would say that that is a proven group. So I would ask that, you know, everyone that kind of jumped on us at one time, look at the body of the group that makes up Tsunami Development before you cast judgment. And there have also been, I can name 100 organizations here in Rowan County that have been in place that aren't proven. So we can make that argument as well. I've been doing this thing about 12 years, advocating for children. I've done it out of my pocket on a shoestring budget. I've also reached out, cried out, and scratched and crawled to everyone that would listen, but it always fell on deaf ears. And for some reason, when the opportunity presented itself potentially to move out to the mall, then all of a sudden, everybody and their brother wants to help. So I don't know if that's in good faith or it's in bad faith. I don't know. We'll see. But at any rate, I'll turn it over to Mr. Kenny Harden. He will have the pleasure of giving you guys the presentation. Thank you.
All right, good evening. And I have to kind of joke, my bedtime is usually 8:15, so I'm kind of pushing it here tonight. But I want to thank Chairman Sides, Vice Chairman Pierce, and Commissioners Barber, Mitchell, and Caskey for giving us that vote of confidence 2 weeks ago when we were here. And I appreciate the due diligence of the chairman in asking us to come back and provide some more in-depth information. So that's what I want to do tonight. I'm not going to belabor any points. We put together a presentation, but I don't want to compromise quality for brevity. So what I'll do is I won't read every slide. I'll just kind of highlight each slide. We are in a building process, but we, as Chris said, we have a very strong plan, and we have some great people. And I'll introduce by the slide some of the great people and people that are a lot smarter than I am that helped me put this together. So with that, I'll go ahead and I control this, Ms. Barter here. Okay. And we talked about this the last time that we were here, so I'm not going to belabor this point too much, but a week or so ago we had a community-wide meeting at Miller Recreation Center. And one of the things that I used was an African proverb that talked about the village. And it says if the kids don't feel a part of the village, then they will burn it down to feel its warmth. And that's what our group, if you look at this organizational summary, is about. We really want to ensure that we are making sure every kid has that opportunity and feels the warmth of that village. So if you think about the name Tsunami Development, again, we want it to be a visual indication of that powerful force. We want to partner with individuals in the community. We don't want to do this in a vacuum. We don't want to do this on our own. We've had some great conversations over the past week, and I'll talk about some of those conversations as well. But we have a great structure and a great organizational summary. Now, the nonprofit status, what we have elected to do, we've got a strong relationship with the Sanctuary of Wilmington, and if you look at this particular information that I pull, they are the sponsor. They are the fiscal sponsor, and we've entered into an agreement with them. And we've got some more information. Chris has got some specific information with a tax ID number and some things of that nature that we can share. And feel free to ask any questions. I don't want to have to wait to the end, but if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free.
I'll go ahead and ask one in respect to that.
Yes, sir.
If I can. And I appreciate your comments about saying you appreciate my due diligence.
Yes.
I ask a lot of questions. Sometimes they're hard questions, and I understand that. But in referring back to the minutes of our last meeting, if you'll recall some of the reservations that I had, Commissioner Pierce asked at the very end of the meeting and I want to read that if I can find it. I thought I had it marked here. Hold on one second. There it is. Commissioner Pierce asked for clarification that Tsunami Development was a 501c3, with Mr. Harden responding in the affirmative. You are a 501c3, a nonprofit.
Right, under the auspices of the Sanctuary of Wilmington.
In other words, you are not a 501c3. You're operating under a 501c3,
yes,
which
sir.
is this other organization. My concern there is, and I hope you'll bear with me, one of the problems that we have is we've not owned the plaza for a year yet.
Right.
It's all new to us. And we've developed, we stated, Mr. Pierce reminded me of this twice before the meeting, and I understand that and agree with it and remember it. We've been misrepresented in what we stated, in that some have said that we represented that we would give 20% of the building to nonprofits. That's not what we said. We spoke in terms of allocating possibly that much space toward educational programs, whether it would be nonprofits, whether it would be RCCC, whether it would be RSSS, or any other entity in the county. So that was our intent. But we don't have any developed rules. In other words, I think we failed in stating that we were going to do that and not going ahead and developing some rules and regulations based on what that would be. Are we only going to lease to, because I think we need a lease. We need something that covers the county, something that covers you, that covers the bases. I just think that we need to do it, and we need to do it right. And we don't have those rules in place right now, and that's why I asked, were you a 501c3? And I find out in the presentation that you're not, that you're actually working under the umbrella of another organization. So it brings to light the question, can we contract with you, or do we need to contract with them? And do we need to know anything about this other organization? And you know, I don't want to see us set a precedent and open ourselves up as soon as, you know, I agree with your concept and what it is you want to do, and then as soon as we say yes to you, we're flooded with other people say, well, we're just like them, we want space too.
Right. And I, excuse me, I understand that. In at the last meeting, we didn't have, I think, the adequate time to delve into it. That's why we're back here, and we probably could have made that delineation, in the last meeting. We have all the confidence. We have a great relationship, and I mean probably a 10-year relationship with the gentleman, and you'll see he's part of our board of directors. So whether, he signs it, we don't want that to be an impediment to what we're doing. I understand, on your behalf, what you have to be concerned about, but we don't see that as an impediment, and he would be more than willing to, whether it's our name or his name, to put that on there and move forward.
I understand you don't see it as an impediment, but I would have to defer to our
Right.
county attorney as to, you know, if we're going to write a lease,
Right.
who's on the lease and who's responsible if they don't fulfill the terms of that lease. You know, we don't want to go to you and you say, well, you know, that's him. And
Right.
we go to him and him say, well, no, that's them.
And I don't think it would be that type of relationship. I have
I
confidence.
certainly don't think so either.
Right.
But,
And again, I respect the concerns that you have, and we'll be in contact with him if that's what needs to be done. And I'm sure he was here this weekend, and we've been back and forth with him as well.
we've addressed that one. I don't want to hold you up all
No,
night.
no problem. Please ask. We want to make sure that one of the things that we talked about in our planning meeting and board of directors meeting is we want to start this off on the right way. So if there's anything that we need to be aware of or any missteps that may come, we want to put those out front, because one of the things, we've got our focus on these kids. So we don't want anything that's going to hamper us or hinder us from the kids. So I appreciate your questions.
Right. Well, if you look at the fact that you stated in this document you gave us tonight,
Yes, sir.
that the project, which is you, which is Tsunami Development, is an unincorporated organization. And yet later on you tell us that you have a board of directors, and I don't, you know, maybe I'm missing something. I don't understand, if you're unincorporated, why you have a board of directors. Maybe that's it. Mr. Attorney, is that something that's normal, or?
I don't know.
An unincorporated
I wouldn't know how to really answer that. I think
I can
any organization can choose to govern itself, either with just officers or as a backdrop have a board of directors to provide advisory capacity. It's akin to a sole proprietor. I mean, you can have unorganized organizations that still operate like a corporation or a limited liability company. I don't know why they've chosen not to at least organize as a North Carolina not-for-profit, but I think you can probably answer
Right.
that.
And the language that's in this is the SO's language. As the attorney said, what we're doing is ensuring that we have the organization in place so that we're not kind of all over the place. This is going to be a working board of directors too, kind of a guidance board, but also a working board. And when we get to those slides, you'll see the delineation of the task and responsibilities.
Well, please move forward.
And with this was the only correction that I wanted to make here. This should actually read our mission statement and not the organizational summary here. But this is, again, something that we talked about at the last meeting, so please excuse that one error there. But our mission statement, again, is we want to work with 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade children in the Salisbury Rowan community. And we want to provide that tutoring and support. We recognize that there are deficiencies, that there kind of are holes and things that we kind of want to plug those holes as well. But again, this is the specific grades that we want to work with. We had a great 2-hour meeting with Dr. Moody last week. And again, we're trying to establish those partnerships. We don't want to do anything outside of what the school system is doing so that the kids are confused. So we're trying to align ourselves also with and create these strategic partnerships as well. If you look at our vision statement, again, this is kind of reiteration of what we talked about a couple of weeks ago, not new territory. We want to give every child a choice and a voice and that opportunity to grow. We've got some great educators that are a part of this program that really understand that particular age group. They understand curriculum development. So again, we're going to serve our children and really encourage them to achieve. And I think the things that we have in place that you'll see are really going to hit that. Now, as our guiding principles, we have core values. These are things that we're going to keep in place as that foundation, as that continual guide as we work with this literacy program. The ones that I really want to focus on is forward thinking and forward action. We always want to have innovation in what we do, whether it's in our practices, whether it's in our thought. We always want to have that kind of progressive innovation. But we also want to put emphasis on service as well, service above self. Seeing what the community needs and then yielding to what the community needs. And we talk about partnerships. These are the stakeholders that will be involved. And again, we put a lot of emphasis. We realize we cannot be successful unless we do partner with the community, in a sense. We want to work with the school system. We want to work with the county commissioners, the city council. We want to work with our faith leaders. In order for us to be successful, again, we can't work in a vacuum. It's going to take an effort with all of these particular stakeholders. And then going back to the question about the board of directors, we sat down and we assigned or aligned each person's strengths to a working board title. We just didn't arbitrarily give people titles. We wanted everybody to have a specific role. So what we did was we broke this up into two distinctly different groups here. We've got a curriculum and education group where I'll delineate that here in just a little bit. And then we've got kind of an operations group. We've got people that are going, if you look, that's going to do the outreach, going to do the facility operations, do the marketing, branding. And then we've got people specifically who are trained to work on the educational component. So we wanted to make sure that they worked in tandem with each other as well. Now, just to give you some insight into who we've got on the educational side, I'll just take a second and let you kind of peruse and look over the background information. Dr. Avis Williams is going to serve as the president. And again, all four of our educators are going to contribute to curriculum development. And again, making sure that we have a sustainable and viable process. So this gives you some insight into Dr. Williams' background. And as we get into here in just a little bit, if you've got any questions about the curriculum, Dr. Williams is here tonight to answer those. I don't know how deep we want to delve into that. But again, I just wanted to give you some information. This is Kelly Watkins. She's a doctoral candidate, has a lot of experience with curriculum and elementary curriculum design and instruction, and you can see some of her accomplishments as well. And then our next expert is Kim Shropshire. She is also a doctoral candidate at the North Carolina State University. Again, a lot of strong background. And she is going to serve as our secretary, but also as our curriculum content specialist as well. And then the executive director, we have a retired educator who's here tonight also, Ella Woods. Extensive background, has current North Carolina professional license. So again, I think we've got some people in some critical places that has the background, has the education to make this a successful endeavor. And Ms. Woods is going to serve as our executive director, being retired, and not to put the onus on her to kind of keep this running, but she will be about relationship building as well. Now, we have a three-step process when we talk about dates of service, how we want to get this going. We looked at, and if the board so chose to approve this for us tonight, we wanted to assume responsibility of the plaza space on September 1st, and then begin the physical setup, go in and kind of see what we need to get this started. November through December, we want to send out our applications, conduct interviews, conduct our training, and then work with the school system to identify which students would be part of this process. And then we didn't want to rush this process. I know, Chairman Sides, the last time you asked us for a date of, and I think my answer was as soon as possible. But, you know, we really want to make sure that we have a step progression process. So on January 12th of next year is when we actually want to begin offering these services. We think in the interim that will give us time to make sure the space is acclimated to what we need, but that we also get the training in place, get the staff in place, and understand what we really are going to offer as a group. So January 12th of 2015 is actually our go live date. And the days and hours of operation, we looked at a 4-day week after school hours from 3 p.m. To 7 p.m. We're going to have slots available, and the parents will pick those available time slots. One of the things that we're looking at further down the road is maybe an after-school transportation program. We've talked about developing some great other ideas, and I don't want to really step out too far, but one of the things that we did bounce around was actually outfitting some type of mobile vehicle and taking computers into maybe low-income areas or some of the areas that are devoid of or of an absence of computer technology and internet mobile access. So that was one of the things. But again, that's kind of what we put in the parking lot and said, you know, we want to guarantee the success of this in our stable location. But we've got some great ideas that we want to do as we see this develop and grow. Now, staffing, again, I won't go through each one of the bullet points, but we will have trainers, and Dr. Moody also has said that she would assist us with training if needed. I think we've got such a great collection of intellect with this, but at least we do have some guarantees and from her that she could assist with some of the training. But we will train the tutors and volunteers on reading assessments. We want to work with certified teachers. One of the things that I brought to the table, I remember when my children were young and we would take them to these after-school church programs, and some of the ladies had the best intentions, but they were a little elderly. They were a little past what, the kids were doing. So we want to make sure, and again, not to discount their contribution, but we want to make sure that we have certified teachers that are there as well. We don't think our volunteers will need to be certified, but we want them to have strong interpersonal communication skills. They need to have a willingness to be trained, to understand what our concept is, and really buy in and tie in with what we're trying to do. We will do applications with background checks, and we will ask those to be returned prior to the interviews. So we just don't want a bunch of people in there that we can't verify, one, what their skill set is, what their intellect level is, but their character as well, because we're about character development as well. So we will do background checks. We want to forge relationships with the local colleges, Catawba, Livingstone, Rowan Cabarrus, and maybe work with some of the students who are enrolled in elementary education or some other related programs. And then also reach out to some of the high schools for some of the some of the other jobs that we may have, registration or interacting with the kids or things like that. But maybe some of the clubs and the student services, we can also work with them. Again, forging those partnerships and those relationships with our stakeholders. And then with market segmentation, what we don't want to do is reinvent the wheel or recreate fire. So we want to do an analysis to see what is already out in the community. And it's not a competition. I think we've got enough that's going on when you talk about burning the village down. I think we've got enough out there to where we can slice that pie several more times and give everybody the opportunity to impact these kids. And one of the words that kind of jumps out is threats. And that's, again, not in a competitive type sense. But what we want to see is what is the obstacles and the impediments to our success. So we really have these candid conversations and these open conversations, but we're going to do this analysis to determine what the strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities. Are there programs out there that are similar? Are there any programs that do not charge? So we've got a list of things that we want to look at as a working board for our market segmentation. And then our marketing and outreach advocacy plan. If you think back to our board of directors, on the operations side, we've got Chris Sifford, you've got myself, we've got Reverend Anthony Smith, we've got Nicholas Means. We've got a lot of people who are really not entrenched or involved in the curriculum aspect who are going to go out and do the kind of advocacy and outreach. We already get a lot of calls. Chris and I were at Livingstone College one day. We were at a church a couple of days. People are really asking us to come out and work with these young kids. So we're going out talking to the kids already. So we're going to incorporate that into the outreach and create these partnerships. One thing that Reverend Smith, if you remember, he was here last time with us. He has already done several sessions where he has taught local pastors how to be advocates in the community. He's authored a book. He's done a lot of training from here to California. So we've got a wealth of talents, again, to where we want to make sure that it's all encompassing and we don't have that singular focus. So that advocacy and outreach also. And we want to, again, reach out maybe to the Civitan Club and the Rotary Club and some of these other clubs to understand what we're about and how they can assist us as well. And then some of the educational programs and services. And the way that I will explain this is we have a comprehensive plan in place where we would do a pre-assessment to identify what the needs are for the child's literacy growth. Then once we do those pre-assessments, we can then look at specific strategies for each individual child. And it doesn't have to be a cookie cutter type situation, because one issue that's a problem for this child may not be an issue for the next child. So we want to make sure that we're doing those pre-assessments, and then we set goals for each child's literacy growth, and then teach the child how to chart their own growth and monitor their progress. Also, now this is the literacy program, and again, I probably didn't do it as justice as Dr. Williams and Ms. Woods would, but that's kind of a short synopsis of what we're doing. But we also don't want to leave the parents out as well. We see that as an integral part. And there was a story that Dr. Williams shared with me in one of her jobs as a principal. And she said that there was a young child, and I can't remember the age group, but it was an elementary school child. And she had given the child a book to take home to read. Well, the child brought the book back and said the parent was incensed about her giving the child the book, because when he got home, he had chores to do. He had kids to look at. He had siblings to look after. And she was able to connect with that mother and explain the importance of literacy and explain the importance of reading. And by connecting with that parent, it helped that child as well as help that relationship. So we want to take that mindset into this as well. So while we're talking with the working with the children, we also want to have what we call a reading parent academy and work with those parents. We've got some space designated in the back, and I'll cover that here at the end. And we want to teach the parent how to implement specific interventions for their children, how to work with that child as well. So it's a collaborative relationship there as well. And then parents, we want to teach them how to read and learn and interpret the data that we have as well. Now, the populations, again, this might be just a bit of redundancy in this, but again, we want to focus on the 3rd through 5th graders at all of the Rowan Salisbury elementary schools. One of the things when we talked about this in a social setting, some of the parents were concerned, well, it's not going to give preferential treatment to one specific school. No, we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we contact or have representatives that we can contact, and we can help children at every school in the system. And I think forging that relationship with Dr. Moody that we did last week, and really sharing with her, and then hearing the strategic plan for the school system and seeing how we can integrate and really just follow what they're doing, so there's no kind of hiccups or bumps when that child leaves the school and they come to our program. So that continuity. And then the other thing that we're looking at is a 2nd grade rising 3rd grader summer program to get those 2nd graders that are going to be in that 3rd grade to kind of capture them that summer before as well. And again, talking about the Parent Academy and acting as an advocate for the parents as well. And then we want to always make sure that we are measuring, again, qualitative and quantitative. We want to make sure that we have a quality product that's out there, but we want to also make sure that we're always improving. So for the students, again, we want to do some pre-assessments and post-assessments, making sure that their phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, comprehension, everything that we are working on, that we can gauge whether or not we're being successful. And we also, again, want to make sure that we're showing growth in those particular areas. If we don't show growth, then really we're just wasting everybody's time. So again, we want to have some measurements in place internally for students where we could measure that success. And then for the overall program, at the end of the year, how do we go back and measure to say we have been successful, as an overall program? How have we recognized growth? So we look at our tutor evaluations. We can monitor student attendance. It can go from the simplistic to the comprehensive, but we want to have a plan in place. We look at the growth, again, in the areas of phonemic awareness and their phonics, fluency, comprehension, number of kids who participate in the program. And then after the first year, if we can say we've had a successful year and then we can do maybe a mobile type process, then we've shown growth. But we certainly don't want to just rest on whatever laurels that we accomplish from year to year. We want to have something quantifiable. And then this is not an all-encompassing list. Again, we have another board meeting tomorrow, and we're kind of gauging what our costs. These are just some things that we looked at. Right now, we've got a call in to, and it may be something that we have to work, Chairman Size, with you and get an analysis of what the energy and water costs, so we can kind of budget out to see what we're going to pay as far as for that. And then some nominal supplies. Towards, at the bottom, you can see some nominal supplies that we'll have to do, but we don't anticipate having a lot of out-of-pocket start-up costs. Again, I think we've got some great people that are working with us that understand, and as Chris said, he's done this for a lot of years with not exceeding a lot of costs. We took a little tour inside. Our group went in and actually looked in, and we looked at some of the retrofit and refurbishing needs. We didn't see or anticipate a lot. There seemed to be some water damage on the walls towards the back, some leakage, and then a couple of the tiles and maybe some of the carpet. But otherwise, it wouldn't need a lot of retrofitting and refurbishing. There was a 3/4 length wall that we wanted to keep. I think the gentleman that showed us said that it wasn't a load-bearing wall and it could be moved, but from what we looked at, we would like to keep that wall. So we don't anticipate a lot of, maintenance or things that have to be shifted around or moved around in there.
But my question to you is, whatever, we just got a bid to refurbish some space over there for the Board of Elections, came in around $35 a square foot. I understand you're not going, we're building cabinets and counters and everything, $35 a square foot. That's a great price, but if whatever it costs to make this space usable, you're going to bear that cost. That's not going to be an expense to the county.
Okay.
And I understand, I can't remember if I've been in this particular spot. I can't remember exactly which one it is. I've been in all of them, but I can't remember exactly which one this is. But some of them are in fairly good shape.
This was in great shape.
Except for maybe some ceiling tiles and things like that. You mentioned some of them wouldn't even require painting. So whatever cost there is, you intend to bear that.
Okay.
That was my question.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, the only, the big thing that we saw, I think, was on that back wall, and I'm not sure if it was just a matter of just water that was kind of draining. It was just some damage on that wall, but it's in good shape.
I assume it was Stephen Keel that showed you around. He's the mall manager. His assistant. Mm-hmm. Did anybody indicate to you the condition of the roof over that portion of the building?
No, we didn't get into that discussion. But the ceiling tiles, it was probably, what do I think, maybe 2 or 3 that you could just tell there was some, water damage there. And let me see if I can go back. So the physical layout, and again, it's probably hard because we don't actually have a map with a legend, but the location is right across from the Books A Million store that's there. It's directly across. It used to be an athletic shoe store, and the total square footage that we looked at was 2,700 square feet with an open face front coming in through the plaza hallway. And the back areas, again, are separated by a 3/4 length dividing wall. There were 2 office-type areas that existed for use. One was a very small area, maybe a changing room, that we thought could be used as a parent conference room. So one-to-one conferences. There was a larger office to the left, adjacent to the left, that we wanted to use for administrative and staff use. Out front, we proposed 10 tutoring stations in the front area, 8 computer desks and chairs to be placed along the right side wall if you're facing into the area, looking into the space. And then we'll have a parent and visitor seating area to the left side of the wall, looking into the space. The only addition of really of furniture in the back would be a conference table in the area for monthly student-led conferences and staff meetings. So the turnaround would not be that significant as far as the addition of furniture or changeover. So that pretty much gives you a deeper dive into what we're trying to accomplish. Any questions or?
Commissioners, I'll open the floor to y'all. I do have a couple of questions, but I'll go last. If there are none, I'll go ahead and go first. This is a much better overview of what you intend to do than what we got the last time. And if I could be quite honest with you, in my tenure on this board, it's very unusual that we give any organization or group of people this much time before our board. That's unusual. But I've extended that courtesy because of Craig Pierce and my respect for him as a commissioner. We've had some discussions. We don't always agree on everything. He made the statement to me, and I made the statement to him, I want to see this program succeed. But the only way it can succeed is if we have the proper understanding from the very beginning.
Right.
I wanted some questions asked. I thought they were important questions. And I appreciate you coming tonight and being willing to answer those. But Craig made the statement to me. He says, well, this will be on me if it fails. It won't be on Craig if it fails. It'll be on all of us because we'll be the ones that make the decision. So I want to be a part, even though I'm going to be leaving, I want to look back 6 months from now when I'm gone and say, I made the right decision. That was a good decision. They're really doing something to benefit the county. The other thing is I want the public to understand what we're trying to accomplish with this because we've received an awful lot of criticism, and when the statement was made by someone that was misinformation that we said we'd give 20% to nonprofits, I want that clarified. That's not what we said. This is an educational undertaking. We all know that our educational system in Rowan County is lacking. We've thrown money at education for years and years. We've not gotten quality education back for that money. And I know that people say when I make statements like that, I hate children, I hate teachers, I hate schools. That's not so. I understand that a lot of the problems we have in America are because of a lack of education. And I appreciate what you men and women are trying to reach out and accomplish in the community. It's very needed. If a child can't read when he leaves the 3rd grade, you've lost them. And we understand that. And I think that's what you intend to address with your program. The things that I want to see is before I would authorize you to have the space in the plaza is a written agreement between this board And whether it's the other organization, I'll have to defer to the attorney whether we can have the agreement with you, with Tsunami Development, or whether the agreement has to be with the other organization. I want to make sure that the bases are covered, that the right people are responsible. And I would be happy to take my time, sit down with him. I have some thoughts about things that I feel like need to be in the lease, because this is new. We're writing the lease from the ground up. We have a standard format that we've developed over the years for the airport that we've begun to use, which helps us when we do leases. We don't have a standard one for this, so we're going to have to work from the ground up. So I'd be willing to work with the attorney and say that by you probably can't get in the 1st of September, because I wouldn't agree to you being in until the lease was signed. I don't think that's proper for us. But by the second meeting in September, is that the 15th? If we could have the lease prepared, possibly we could have it a little earlier than that. You'd have an opportunity to read it and agree to the terms of it. We could bring it back before this board and have it voted on then. I'd be ready for you to move in then. The other point I wanted to make was there was mentioned in the last presentation the possibility of moving another group in to that building. That I would not have that as part of the lease. This would be a standalone agreement with Tsunami Development. It would not include, and I understand the purpose and intent behind the other group is great, but it just it creates problems when you don't have things clearly defined. And I would want this agreement to be with Tsunami Development for this literacy initiative, not for anything else. Just want that understood up front. You've answered most of the questions I had. Evidently nobody else has any questions. So
can I add just a couple of things, Mr. Chairman? And again, I appreciate all of the questions as we are trying to develop and grow, and not once do we take it as adversarial or anything. I appreciate, again, your due diligence with that. I don't foresee a problem getting that written agreement. One of the things that was a little disheartening to me, and Vice Chairman Pierce knows me, and everyone knows I don't bite my tongue on a lot of things, and I don't have a lot of tolerance for these mouse pad cowards that are trying to talk down about things that we're trying to accomplish. I don't have a lot of use for people that I don't see out in the trenches. We're out there all the time. And, Vice Chairman Pierce came to our meeting at Miller Rec last week. We had about 240, 250 people the month before that. So we're working, and we will continue to work. I am appreciative, and I speak on behalf of our group. We're appreciative that you are providing us the assistance. There are not a lot of people initially before, as Chris said, before y'all stepped up, that wanted to help. Now we got more people that's offering to help, but I'm very skeptical and I'm very cautious because I'm not one of these fair weather people. And then just the last thing, we did talk as a group, even the night crawlers, that they do have a great mission and a great program. It would be contradictory in the sense, in what we're trying to accomplish. We think this task is big enough to where this is what we need to focus on. Now, outside, we will continue to support the night crawlers, and I offer to anybody on Friday nights, please come out with us. But again, we want to have a singular focus with this.
Well, I, like you, have a lot of critics. And they don't understand what it is to sit in this seat and have to make decisions. And you can make the right decision and they'll criticize you.
Right.
You can make the wrong decision and they'll criticize you. But you're the one in the position that has to make the decision.
Exactly.
I just want to make the right decision. I want to see you successful. I want a good check mark beside of my name to say, hey, he was part of that. He agreed to it. So I appreciate you coming, offering all the information, answering all my questions. You've been up front with us, and I appreciate that. And my motion would be to bring this back to the commission with a written lease at our September the 15th meeting for a vote to move forward.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.